Psalm 33, verse 6. By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and by the breath of his mouth all their hopes. Does anybody... Well, here's another. Genesis 1, 24, 25. And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kind, livestock and creeping things, and beasts of the earth according to their kind. And it was so, and God made the livestock according to their kind, and everything that creeps on the ground, on the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. How many of you remember the verse in the Bible where God made man? How many of you remember the verses in the Bible where he said, let there be light? And there was light.
Yeah.
Amazing what he can do with just a voice, isn't it? And if he can do that with his voice, because I want to make sure we understand the grandeur of what we're actually looking at today. In the beginning, there was nothing. Right? There was a void. And then God spoke. He used his voice. And it rippled throughout, well, the then non-existent galaxy. And his voice touched everything we can imagine. His voice created it. And how powerful is that?
Hallelujah.
It didn't say he screamed, did it? It didn't say he yelled. It didn't say that he raised his voice. He simply spoke, and the very creation of life, matter, space, time, water, light, birds, humans, spoke into existence. Now, you and I both know that God's a pretty smart fellow, right? I mean, he figured out how to do all this. Did it in 6 days. On the 7th day, he was smart enough to rest. Kind of something we can all do, isn't it? But he also did something there that we need to make sure that we're aware of and we watch out for. You see, also in this verse that I was talking about here in Genesis, also said, let's make man in our own image. Now that means that we were not only made in the image of God, but we were given a voice, just like the one he used. Now we can't understand what God says. I mean, he could open his mouth and utter a syllable and wipe out everything. That's how powerful he is. But when he gave us a voice, we forgot that. And we've been using our voice ever since then to do everything that we're not supposed to do except praising God. But the same thing, when God spoke, he created, was transferred to you and I the day you and I were born. And it's time we realize that. Because look what we've created with our voice, and look at what he's created with his. God comes in and he says, let there be lights. Let there be lights in the skies, and the stars and the moon began to glow. Let there be day and night. And he separated them so that during the daytime we can see what we're doing. And he hung a light up in the sky so during the night we don't stub our toe. Right? That's called the moon. And stars. He made the creatures that crawl across the earth, that fly, that wiggle, that swim. All with his voice. And we have been hard at work ever since trying to destroy it for some reason. Ever since we were made. We use our voice to convince one another that it's okay if we eat from the tree of the fruit that the difference between right and wrong. After that, we began to use our voice to talk about how we could not stand an individual any longer, so we killed him, Cain and Abel. We used our voice to tell our family that we had to build a ship that was big enough to carry 2 of all animals. And then the world was destroyed. Because in that short period of time, from when we got out of the garden to where we got into the flood, apparently we really messed this world up good. Because God said, I can't save it, I'm flushing it. But he saw in Noah a voice. And he told him so. Out of everybody, you're the only one I can see that's truly honorable to me. You're the only one that not only listens to me, but does what I said. So I'm going to use you. I'm going to use you to remake this world again. Give them one more shot and see if they can finally get their voices in unison and do something right. Now I want to speak on voices. Has anybody ever spoken to you in an angry manner in your life? Now I'm going to tell you one thing right now, and this is men and women alike. This is all the way from the youngest to the oldest. If you're saying anything in anger, it's probably better you keep your mouth shut. Can you disagree? If you're beginning to ask for something that you know that, 1, you don't deserve, or 2, you have no way of keeping or getting, is it right for you to use your voice to occupy God's ear to get something or to ask for something that you know you're not going to get? No, it's not. When you speak to other people and you tell them something, is it something constructive that will make them feel better for the rest of the day? Or is it something that will make their day less happy? And if you can't tell the difference between the two, meet with me after class, because I want to talk to you for a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, my entire life, I was this young, smart-mouthed little kid. Didn't know that, did you? That would run around and pop off to anybody. I was that arrogant, whatever you want to use, whatever term you want to use. Just remember, we're in the church. But I didn't use my voice for what it was meant to be. And I created chaos and anarchy everywhere I went. And people would always tell me, I love this, especially the older people that were in the group. They were always so sweet and so kind about it. As they were ripping the ear off of your head, they would whisper into it and say, son, if you don't have anything to add to the conversation, maybe you should stay out of it. That's the power God gives us in the very voice we have. And it's the truth. But that is something that you and I need to carry in our hearts with us every day. Because if we don't, God's going to remind us again, son, if you don't have anything good to add to this conversation, you probably ought to stay out of it. Because that just tells me it's more important that you listen to what people are saying than it is for them to have to hear what you're blurting out. And as you can see, that took effect on me because I've been talking ever since. My wife would argue nonstop. God gave you a voice for a reason. Because in the other chapters that are in that same book in the Bible, he tells us that we have dominion over all things on earth. And I must say, we have done a terrible job at managing that. If this is truly our dominion, then why are we at war? Because we can't figure out how to use our voice for creation rather than destruction? Yeah. Why is is it that we don't get along with our neighbors? Besides, he always burns leaves in my house. Why is it we can't simply look across the fence and say, he is my neighbor? The Bible says I'm supposed to love my neighbor, so therefore I care for him. But we don't. We go back into our house or back into our garage and we say, you know what that fruitcake across the road is doing today? Blah, blah, blah. And we're tearing him down. We're not creating, are we? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to offer this to you today. God gave you a voice so that you could go forth and create something for Him. That's why we use our voice, to glorify Him. So here's my challenge to you this week. If you've got to do something with your voice, make it something creative. When you say something to your fellow neighbor, if you can't be giving them something they don't have before, don't say anything. Is that hard? No, it's not. You see them walking down the street, they don't see you. Think about it. Hey, wait a minute. I really don't like this guy. I'm going to shut up and walk away. Or, brother, you're looking good today. Glad I got to see you. Yes, I know you're not a brother. When you're right, Vicky. Sister, your heart looks wonderful today. You've got a smile on your face. How are you doing? You're creating something in them, an opportunity for them to tell you why they're happy or why they're angry. But if you can't create something with your voice, leave it alone. Look at the news anchors that we see on TV every night. And I love this because, see, I get most of my news off of the internet. So I get to see all different kinds of networks across the board. ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Fox. And it's amazing to me, not one of them has anything good to say. Have you seen it lately? If there is ever an indication in this world of what the world is trying to say to you, I think it is through these news anchors and through the headlines we see in the paper. This is what the world is saying to us. We're in trouble. We have country fighting country. We have brothers fighting brothers. We got people killing their own kids. But where are the stories that you and I need to hear more than anything? Where are the stories where they're building people up? Where kids that didn't have a home are being taken care of by people who love them enough to do the right thing? Where are these stories? Because I don't think they're happening. Because that's the one thing God told us that we had to do. We had to go do something to make a difference. So that's my challenge to you. Take this week. I dare you. I challenge you to not say anything unless you could create something positive and see how different your week becomes. Somebody runs in front of you at a stoplight or runs a stoplight right in front of you. If you can't say anything creative, don't say nothing. You've already received your blessing. You weren't in the intersection when he blew through it. Say, thank God that didn't get worse, and keep going. Okay? If you've got somebody that is so upset with their life that they feel like they have to strike out at people, I think if they're ladies, they call them Karens. If they're guys, they call them what? Does anybody know? Is it Kens?
That works.
Kens and Karens. They're always bringing their trouble to other people and dumping it on them. You ever met anybody like that? You're walking and you're having a great day and all of a sudden somebody comes in and goes, you know what, there's 37 kids that just died today and I want to know what you're going to do about it. Didn't know. Well, why didn't you know? You're not as good a person as you should be. Recognize them yet? Well, why are you doing what you're doing? What do you mean you're parking your car out front of your house? That's not in the homeowners association. You can't park your car out there. Just something to make your life more of a hassle because they feel so sad about theirs. look them square in the eye and say, you know what? I am so happy I got to see you today. Because if God can love you, imagine what He can do for me. I dare you to think about that for a minute. What better way to defend somebody? You didn't tell them anything wrong. You didn't make them feel less about themselves. Matter of fact, you let them know they impressed you. Because God's ability to love us all is perfect. And their ability to love anybody is flawed. When confronted with love, there is no argument. I dare you to try it. Monty, you've probably done it. Monty thinks this way. God did that for a reason. When He created us in His image so that we could take that same power to do things differently and to create in this world that which is good and honorable and lovable. Stop misusing the gift He gave you and use it for what is good. Create something today. Tell your wife, hey, I appreciate everything you do for me. If you haven't done that, by the way, that's a bad thing. Guys, I know we're slow on the update. But we wouldn't be half as good as we are if it wasn't for them. Right? And vice versa. But God created in you a heart that is connected to a brain that can formulate speech, that has the ability to either create or destroy in reality. So use it for what it's supposed to be used for. Find a reason to make your heart beat for something so you can say things that will help create what you feel so good about in reality. If you think nobody's smiling, go around all day smiling back at people. They don't smile. See what they do. When I was a kid, I used to love to do that. And the teacher would say, what are you doing? I say, oh, I'm smiling. And she'd say, well, why are you smiling? And I say, well, my dad told me to do this because it makes people wonder what I'm up to. Think about that for a minute. If that's true, if I walk down the street smiling, I got everybody wondering what's going on. And now here's a thought for the day about being creative. Walk down the street. It says Jesus made me do it right across the back of your shirt. Smile. People will follow you no matter where you go. Jesus made me do what? Why is He smiling like that? I got to find out what He's doing. Right? I got joy in my heart knowing I'm saved, I'm going to heaven. That I am forgiven, reconciled, and made pure by His blood. And I'm going to tell you about it. Now there's something to smile about. Imagine that. Using your voice to create more Christians.
Amen.
Can you do that? Yes. More happiness, more love, more understanding, more forgiveness. Can this world use that? Yes, it can. And it starts with you. And what you decide to do when you get up in the morning. Are you going to use this voice for creation or destruction? Are you going to use this voice to tell people about Jesus Christ or to hide the fact that there's something wonderful out there they haven't found yet? And just like everybody else in this world, as they're growing up, they have to learn something. For every action we take, there's a reaction. There's a consequence to the things we do. So you might think they're using this voice just to destroy this one person because he really deserves it. Isn't that big of a deal? If I really tell this guy off today, right here, right now, it's not that big of a deal. It's just me telling him what I feel, what I think about him, what I believe he really is, which is beneath. Right? Because that's what we want to do. When we believe we're right, we take the moral high road and we talk down to people. Tear them apart. And then we think, hey, we're good, we're just going. What we don't realize is that guy takes that pain and he goes home to his wife and kids and he distributes it evenly. So because of you just having to get that one poke in at that time, now there are 3 or 4 other people that are suffering from the very words you spoke, because you didn't create good in this world, you destroyed. Now how differently could that evening go for that family if instead of telling that man what you think, you tell that man what God thinks? That even though I don't agree with you and you don't agree with me, God has a purpose for you that is just as great as what mine is. And in His eyes, you are just as capable of accomplishing it as I am. So I don't agree. And that's okay. But I do care. And that's better. Then when that man goes home, he's telling his wife about, do you know what this weirdo did at work today? I was walking around, this guy tried to sell me on Jesus. And secretly, the wife's heart melts because she's been praying for years that somebody would talk to her husband about Christ. And today it happened. Now you've created hope, love, understanding, and an opportunity for somebody to change. When you leave here today, the decision of whether you create or destroy is 100% on your shoulders. And the results and the consequences of your actions will follow, whether you do anything or not. So make the decision to do the right thing. Proclaim God's love to all people, for all reasons. And let them know that there is a Creator that gave us life, that gave us beauty, gave us hope, love, and understanding. And they too can participate in that. Never feel lost again. Never feel alone or unfriended. And never have to carry the shame and the weight of your guilt any longer. Because today, we can leave it with someone who can handle it. So use your voice for good. Raise it up high so God can hear you Himself and create in this world what God made you to do. A difference. He gave you a voice to make a difference. So go do it. You have all of the power of heaven behind you, the strength of every angel calling out your name, and even God is sitting on His throne going, get them, get them. We need them all. Answer with your voice. Amen.
Amen.
All right. We have our special music that will be coming up. I got to get out of here because I'm already